Imagine waking up one day realizing that your dreams are still exactly where they were 5 years ago, untouched, unchased, and fading quietly into the background of your daily routine. It's not because you didn't care. It's not because you lacked passion, intelligence, or talent. It's because action was postponed for the perfect moment that never came. We've all been there, waiting for clarity, waiting for permission, waiting for everything to feel just right before making a move. But that moment rarely, if ever, arrives. There's something magnetic about planning, about dreaming and visualizing your future. It feels productive. It gives the illusion that something is happening. But dreams don't come alive in your head. They come alive through your hands. The truth is, every life-changing transformation begins with a single decision: to act, not later, not tomorrow, now. What separates those who live extraordinary lives from those who settle for average isn't luck or resources, it's urgency. It's the fierce decision to break the pattern of waiting and leap, even when the ground feels uncertain. Those who rise are the ones who move forward without knowing all the answers. They push past fear, past doubt, and through resistance. And while others are still hesitating, they're building momentum that grows, momentum that leads to mastery. And it all starts in the moment you decide that you're done waiting. You don't need a detailed map, you need motion. You don't need certainty, you need courage. You don't need another excuse, you need a spark. The life you crave, the version of you you've always imagined, is not hiding behind complexity, it's hiding behind inaction. Everything changes the moment you stop thinking about it and start doing something about it. Now is always the moment that matters most. Every single person carries within them a vision of the life they truly want. A dream, a goal, a burning desire to break free from limitations and reach new levels of success, fulfillment, and meaning. Yet for so many, that vision remains just that: a picture in the mind, a possibility left unexplored. The gap between where we are and where we want to be is not as wide as it seems, but it is filled with hesitation, doubt, and fear. People wait for the right moment, the right mood, the right set of circumstances before they begin. But while waiting, the clock ticks, opportunities slip by, and life quietly continues on. There is a common belief that action should follow clarity, that we must first have everything figured out before we dare to move. But the reality is often the opposite. Clarity comes through action. It is in the doing, in the stepping forward, that we discover who we are and what we're capable of. Action, especially massive action, creates energy, builds confidence, and shatters the illusion of limitation. It's the force that moves dreams from imagination into reality, one bold step at a time. We live in a world full of distractions, doubts, and endless options where the temptation to delay is stronger than ever. It's easy to get caught in cycles of planning, preparing, and second-guessing. The desire to get everything just right becomes a form of disguised procrastination. But success doesn't come from perfection, it comes from progress. Those who rise and thrive are not necessarily the ones with the most talent, money, or connections. They are the ones who are willing to act decisively, to move despite fear, and to stay committed to their path regardless of the challenges. Taking massive action is not about doing everything at once. It's about committing with full intensity, choosing to move with purpose, and refusing to be paralyzed by uncertainty. It's about replacing hesitation with movement, swapping excuses for execution, and understanding that no one is coming to save you. Your progress, your breakthroughs, your transformation, they all begin with you. Not when you feel ready, not when things feel safe, but now. The path to a greater life isn't hidden in complex strategies. It's revealed in moments of bold action. Those moments begin the instant you decide to stop waiting and start doing. The greatest challenge most people face is not a lack of desire or ambition, but a failure to take meaningful, consistent action. It's not that we don't know what we want or even what needs to be done to achieve it. The real issue lies in the gap between intention and execution. People talk about goals, they write them down, they visualize success, but when it comes time to act, truly act, They freeze, they hesitate, they wait for certainty, for confidence, for some magical sign that now is the perfect time. But that moment rarely, if ever, arrives. This hesitation is often fueled by fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of stepping into the unknown. So instead of taking bold steps forward, people play it safe. They stay within their comfort zones, convincing themselves that they're just not ready. They might tell themselves they need more time, more knowledge, more experience. But what they really need is motion, because inaction breeds more doubt, and the longer one waits, the harder it becomes to break the cycle. The modern world makes it even easier to stay inactive while feeling busy. Endless scrolling, consuming motivational content, and making to-do lists can all feel productive, but without execution, none of it matters. Planning is important, but planning without action becomes a trap. Ideas are only powerful when they are acted upon, otherwise they become a source of frustration, reminders of what could have been but never was. There's also the illusion that small occasional actions will be enough to create massive change. But transformation doesn't come from dabbling. It demands a level of commitment and intensity that most people are unwilling to give. They might start something new, but when it gets hard or uncomfortable, they back away. They confuse being busy with being effective, and as a result, they stay stuck, always moving, but never forward. What holds people back is not the lack of opportunity, but the lack of decisiveness and urgency. When action is delayed, potential fades, confidence erodes, momentum disappears, and slowly, people begin to accept a life far smaller than the one they once imagined. They settle for less, not because they must, but because they didn't act when it mattered most. The challenge isn't about knowing what to do, it's about doing it with enough force and consistency to create lasting change. Massive action is the difference between wishing and achieving. It's not about a flurry of random activity, but about intentional, focused effort taken with intensity and commitment. When someone decides to act decisively, everything begins to shift. They stop waiting for clarity and start creating it through movement. Each step forward, no matter how uncertain, begins to carve a new path. This process of doing, even imperfectly, builds momentum, and momentum has a powerful effect. It fuels motivation, increases confidence, and accelerates results. Taking massive action isn't about being reckless. It's about understanding that progress demands discomfort. Growth rarely happens in comfort zones. The person who embraces the discomfort of action is the one who changes the game. It's about facing fear head on and pushing through resistance. Resistance will always show up in the form of doubt, distraction, or fatigue. But those who push beyond it are the ones who find breakthroughs. One of the most important realizations is that no one feels ready when standing at the edge of change. Confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a result. It's built by showing up, by doing the hard thing repeatedly until it becomes second nature. People often believe that successful individuals have some secret formula or a unique set of advantages, but often the real difference is their decision to act despite fear, confusion, or the risk of failure. Massive action also requires a mindset shift. Instead of thinking in terms of limitations, there's a focus on possibilities. Instead of asking, what if I fail? The question becomes, what if I succeed? That internal shift changes everything. The energy goes from hesitation to determination, from doubt to drive. And in that process, action begins to attract new opportunities. Doors open that weren't even visible before. Resources, people, and ideas begin to align, not because they suddenly appeared, but because action brought them into awareness. Nothing awakens your potential like motion. It forces growth, it demands focus, it strengthens discipline, and it turns abstract goals into tangible results. The more action that's taken, the less power fear has. The mind becomes trained to seek progress instead of perfection. Waiting becomes unnatural. Settling becomes uncomfortable. And life transforms, not in an instant, but through a series of decisive moves that redefine what's possible. Every time you take massive action, you move closer to the life you were meant to live. There comes a moment when everything changes, not because circumstances shift, but because a decision is made. A decision to stop negotiating with fear, a decision to stop playing small, a decision to stop waiting and finally act. This is the turning point. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or a guarantee. It comes quietly, sometimes unexpectedly, like a sudden surge of clarity in the middle of chaos. In that moment, you realize that no one is coming to push you, save you, or tell you the time is right. You understand that the future you want will only arrive if you demand it through action, massive, deliberate, and immediate. This moment is marked by a deep internal shift. The excuses lose their power. The doubts that once held you hostage begin to dissolve. You no longer need every answer, every step perfectly planned. You simply know you can't stay where you are. The pain of inaction outweighs the discomfort of change. That's when the fire is lit, not the kind that flickers and fades, but the one that fuels relentless movement forward. You stop caring about who approves, who understands, or whether you might fail. You act because you know it's the only way forward. It could be making the phone call you've avoided, launching the idea that's been trapped in your mind, ending the habit that's been draining you, or stepping into a challenge you never thought you were ready for. Whatever the action is, it becomes the spark that breaks the pattern. The moment you stop analyzing and start doing, the grip of fear loosens its hold. And as the first results appear, small wins, subtle shifts, you begin to feel your own power returning. You become addicted to progress. Each step feeds your confidence and rewires your beliefs. You realize you are not defined by your hesitation, but by your capacity to act in spite of it. That moment, that decision becomes the catalyst that changes your story. It's not the external world that transforms first. It's the internal fire that's reignited. You recognize that your destiny was never locked behind some secret door. It was always waiting behind your willingness to take massive action. And from that moment on, there's no turning back. You become someone who acts boldly, moves swiftly, and lives with unstoppable intention. When looking back at the gap between where you are and where you want to be, one truth becomes undeniably clear. Nothing changes until you do. The idea of waiting for the right time, the perfect plan, or a surge of confidence often leads to stagnation, not growth. Time moves forward regardless of our hesitation, and every moment spent delaying action is a moment that could have been used to build momentum, develop skills, or create breakthroughs. The power to transform your life isn't locked in knowledge alone. It's activated through action. Action is the bridge between intention and reality. Massive action is not about being busy for the sake of it. It's about taking decisive steps that align with your goals, values, and highest potential. It's about facing fear with courage, confronting doubt with movement, and challenging the voice that says, maybe later. True change happens when action becomes non-negotiable. The people who rise to new levels in life aren't the ones who wait for inspiration. They're the ones who take bold steps, whether they feel ready or not. They understand that the path becomes clearer the further they walk it. Progress is built through consistent, committed effort. Small actions compound, and when taken with intensity and focus, they lead to extraordinary outcomes. Every courageous move rewrites your belief system. Every uncomfortable decision shapes your resilience, and every failure along the way becomes a teacher that sharpens your path forward. The beauty of massive action is that it doesn't require perfection. It requires movement. Imperfect action, taken repeatedly, outpaces the most elaborate plan left on paper. The life you envision is not just a dream, it's a real possibility waiting to be claimed. But it won't come to you through wishing or hoping. It will come when you decide that motion matters more than comfort, and that execution matters more than excuses. When action becomes your standard, change becomes your lifestyle, and with each bold step, you close the gap between who you are and who you're meant to be. You don't need to wait for permission or certainty. You only need to decide that now is the time, because it is. The life you want won't wait for you. It will respond to what you do next. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next week. now. The change you're seeking, the breakthrough you've been waiting for, it begins with a single bold decision to take action. Not just any action, but massive, intentional movement in the direction of your goals. Stop analyzing and start executing. Stop planning endlessly and start creating momentum. You already know what needs to be done. Deep down, there's a voice urging you to move. Listen to it. No one else is responsible for your transformation. The life you want isn't going to fall into your lap. It's going to rise to meet the level of action you take. You have the power to shift everything, but only if you choose to stop standing still. Let go of the fear of failure. Let go of the need for everything to be perfect. Nothing will ever be 100% certain, and that's okay. You don't need certainty. You need courage. The first step will always be the hardest, but it's also the one that creates a ripple effect of progress. Start right where you are with what you have, make the decision, take the step, send the message, launch the idea, set the boundary, change the habit. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Even if it feels small, it's the beginning of a much bigger shift. Momentum builds fast when it's fueled by commitment. This is your invitation to stop waiting for life to happen and start taking control of it. You've waited long enough. The clock is ticking and the world isn't slowing down. It's time to rise. Time to step into your strength. Time to show up with more intensity, more consistency, and more urgency than ever before. You don't need more time. You need more action. The path is already unfolding, but it requires you to walk it. So take that bold first step and then take another. Keep going, keep pushing, and don't look back. Your future begins with what you do right now. So act like everything depends on it, because it does.